Hello beautiful people, how are you today? All good, I hope. Today I wanted to talk about simplicity, the simple life, stripping back all the complex aspects of your world so your true soul can shine, so you can see yourself between the lines as a simple yet beautiful light in that huge patchwork and matrix of consciousness. I think it's really important that we do strip our lives back every now and again just to take a look at where we've got to. And also to make sure that we haven't got caught in that tangled web of complexity. That web where we hear so many noises, we smell so many smells, we touch so many things. We're influenced by lots of external factors, and yet actually, when it all comes down to it, we forget that life is so simple. It was Lao Tzu who famously said that I have just 3 things to teach in my life: simplicity, patience, and compassion. And during the sacred pause, I've already focused on patience and compassion, but simplicity, for some reason, has slipped by. And yet, it is probably our greatest treasure of all. It was Leonardo da Vinci who said simplicity is our ultimate sophistication. And while many people may feel this is a paradox of terms, the truth is that sophistication doesn't need great technology behind it. All it needs is an essence. And actually, if you look at all the great philosophers, they all seem to say that simplicity is one of the key denominators in finding happiness, in finding yourself. And it's almost as if life has been created in a very complicated way just to make it very hard to actually find ourselves. As if the universe is one great forest of trees, and yet actually, the first tree you come to has got all the answers. But for some reason we feel like we need to go on this great journey through all the forest, looking at all the trees before eventually coming back to that first tree and realising that that's the one that we were looking for. It was Confucius who said that life is actually really simple. We just become obsessed with making it complicated. The art of being wise is the art of knowing what to overlook. And in truth, we can overlook most of the things that we come across in life. Because even spirituality and this great journey we're going on is full of so many different ways, so many different means, so many different journeys to getting to the same place. And we don't have to take them all. Perhaps we have to find the one that fits best for us, the one that suits us in our great journey to enlightenment. Because even when we think we've found the right journey, it can still become very complicated because we do have good days and bad days. And it's very easy on the bad days to become obsessed that things aren't going in the right direction, that you're going against the flow, that spirit hasn't always got you back. That it feels like you've kind of lost the rhythm of life. And on the good days, it's the opposite. You can think, wow, this is amazing. Everything's going perfectly. I'm so in tune. I'm so in the flow. When actually every single day we're in the flow. Because we can't always be moving 100% towards that final goal. We're always moving in the right direction, even if it feels like we're not. We do have to make mistakes. We do have to have little moments where we trip up, because without these little moments, then we wouldn't necessarily find our way back onto the path. Then we wouldn't learn the lesson that we need to learn to kind of move in the right direction for us, because everyone is on a very unique journey. And if you followed everyone's trajectory or everyone's route through the forest, between finding that first tree and then going around the forest to come back to that tree, it would always be different, because it needs to be, because everybody is here to learn a different lesson. Everybody is here to play a different piece of music, because everybody has a different gift to offer the world. Now, the ability to simplify means that we can eliminate all the unnecessary things in our lives so that the necessary things can begin to emerge, so they can be seen easily. And a great example of simplicity is nature. Nature never hurries, and yet everything is accomplished. And while we spoke last time about how nature is always moving, nature is always changing. But it moves at its own speed, and it might be a very gradual change. The colour of a leaf might take 3 months to change. A tree may take 100 years to grow. But the beauty about a tree is always a tree, and a tree knows, even when it's a tiny seed or a tiny acorn, it knows that its one main purpose is to grow into a mighty oak. And I think that human beings can learn so much from trees. Because as humans, seem to forget why we're here. We seem to forget the reason for our journeys. And we get sidetracked constantly, whether it's our jobs, whether it's our families, whether it's deliberating on what we should be doing. When actually the only thing we're meant to do is just to be ourselves. We get caught up in the irrelevant details of becoming somebody. And perhaps we do need to become somebody. But we become obsessed and actually start to believe that we are Peter Sanderson and that we are a journalist and that we're 43 years old and that our main purpose in life is to work. When actually the truth is we're just here to be ourselves, to play our own music. And we can play that music in so many ways, but the key is really that we keep it simple and we look at our lives, we see what we're good at, we see what we're passionate about, what truly drives us. And once we see that, we just make sure we do it in a way which works in our lives, in a way that we feel like we can play our music the loudest or the gentlest, or whatever way suits us, because we're all unique. And our names or the name of our company, our age, our professions, the clothes we wear, that's all minor details. It's all irrelevant. And if you looked at the piece of music, it wouldn't even feature. So we can learn a lot from nature. And I think it was Thoreau who said, simplicity, simplicity, simplicity is the key for life. And perhaps he could have simplified that by just saying simplicity. But I'm not going to question Thoreau because he probably had a reason for that. But even the word simple for me, it's so beautiful. It kind of puts me at ease immediately. Because I, certainly when I was younger, was someone who always got bogged down in the details. I got stuck in my head. Whenever I was asked to write a simple story at school, or even when we did the shamanic training, we were asked to write a story about our lives. And I always make it so complicated. And then I'd hear the person next to me who read their story, and it was so simple because in their heads, their life had been mapped out and stripped back. They'd cleared out all the debris, all the clutter, because they could hear their music playing, because they could see the story of their life. And it was 3 sentences. It wasn't 3 pages, because the length of a story is irrelevant. But the purpose of the story is crucial. And ultimately, simplicity boils down to 2 key aspects. One is identifying the essential things in life. What do you need in your toolkit to get to where you need to go? If you know where you need to go and you know who you are, then all you need is the bare minimum. And to me, that's your heart, and in this lifetime, your body, and then a very limited amount of food and fuel, but a hell of a lot of love. The rest, well, I think that can be eliminated, really. It's like doing that uncluttering of your house and realizing that you only actually need a few basic things to survive, to live, to love, to thrive. Because things like the television, the bed, the toothbrush, you could probably survive pretty much without. Because nature will be able to provide you with everything that you need. But even if you make life simple, it doesn't mean that it's not significant. We might think that people who live in serpent in their reptilian brain can very easily fall into that trap of believing that having a nice car, having a big house, or sending their kids to a very expensive school, or going on lavish holidays is the substance that they need to satisfy their cravings in life. These are the things that will mean that everyone thinks that they're significant, that they've made it. But actually, well, certainly in my eyes, the most significant people are the people who go out into the Arctic and live in a tent, or people who go and live in a tent in the forest, or people who really strip their lives back and buy a camper van and just go and live in it and travel around the world. To me, these are the people who are the most impressive on this planet. Or the people who have very little in terms of money and perhaps live in a little tin hut in South America or Africa. And yet, between them and their family, life is so rich because there's so much colour and life and love and vibrancy. Their family bonding is incredible. They're a shining example for the Western world on how to live life. And I really do believe that the less that you need, the better you feel. That doesn't mean that you look back on your life and beat yourself up for wasting your time, for being that plonker who used to go and spend loads of money, or being someone who has perhaps listened to their ego for a long, long time. No, that's the journey we were meant to get on to get to where we are now. Because that was our teaching. That was the creation of what we needed to be, so we could learn that it needs to fall away. And I think a lot of these talks boil down to that word freedom, because I think that the less stuff that you need and the less stuff that you have often provides you with more freedom. I think freedom is the place that we often talk about, the place that we dream of going to, when actually we're already there. We're already at that place of freedom. The problem is that we haven't let go of some of the things. It doesn't mean we have to go on a great journey searching for something physically. It doesn't mean we have to go on a great journey searching for something spiritually or mentally. It doesn't mean we have to go and sit in a cave in Tibet and meditate for hour upon hour. No, you are already there. You are already in that place of freedom. You are already in that place of simplicity. The only issue is you might be holding on to a few things which are complicated, which need to be just let go of. And again, we come back to that word surrender. It's about just surrendering. That obsession with the need to have money, that obsession that the Western world has got, that money comes from jobs, when in truth, money comes from the soul. Do you not think that spirit is powerful and beautiful and intelligent enough to be able to provide for us if we let go? Yes, we think that we get paid by our employers, by our jobs, by our governments, but that's only at a human level. In truth, we've been put on this planet, and the money will come to us regardless. But only if we're willing to let go of this feeling that it needs to be held on to. That if we give it away, that everything else will fall off and we'll have nothing. When in fact, the opposite is true. When we have nothing, everything comes to us. When we're willing to give up everything, then suddenly a great tsunami of abundance will come our gentle way. And if you're trying to put together a business idea, again, it's very easy to get caught up in making it incredibly convoluted, incredibly complex. But Einstein said, if you cannot explain your idea simply, then it means you don't understand it. So if you've got a proposal or a business plan and you're wondering why it's not quite come in yet, why not just take another look at it? Really break it down, make it simple. What is it you're trying to do? Where do you want to be? And how can you do it? Because simplicity is the nature of great souls. And while we're all great souls when it comes down to it, if you in this lifetime want to really stand out, become the brightest light from a spiritual point of view, in a very crowded space, all you have to do is just keep it simple. And for me, that's love. That's coming from a place of absolute love. Coming from a place of complete truth. Really breaking yourself down to the very essence of who you are. And then playing that simple song. So this isn't a song which needs a whole orchestra of 7,000 trombones and 4,000 guitars and 400 pianos. This is a song or a piece of music that you can play yourself. And just with the sound of the river flowing just behind me, another fine example of simplicity. I could sit and stare at this little waterfall all day. And yet all it is water just flowing in one direction. with a few trees around the riverbank. And yet so much beauty. And while life perhaps is full of distractions and is full of stories about things that we should do and things that we shouldn't do, and while it's very easy to be lured into a trap of looking at somebody else and saying, I'd like to be like them, or to look at something complex and going, wow, that's amazing. Just take a look at nature, look at a flower, look at a mountain, and ask them, what is their job spec for this life? For a mountain to just be there, to hold space for all of nature around it. So take a look at your life. How can you simplify it? Don't become obsessed by your name, by your profession, by your past. Don't become obsessed by all the things that you own, or creating these super complicated ideas which are going to be better than everybody else's. And instead, take a step back, take a deep breath, and say, I just want to be me. And how can I achieve that in a way which means that I can thrive in this life? Not by being a millionaire, but being rich in love. By being rich in life. By being rich in the heart. Wishing you all a stupendously simple and beautiful day. Thank you for listening. Yours in peace and love, Peter. Namaste.